Fortunately, unfortunately, the lights in these fixtures are hue lights because I also live here and I
Mhm.
want it to be controlled via smart assistant. So,
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Portable Trevor here, and today is a very special day for two reasons. One, it's the 50th episode of the show. Super pumped about this. I cannot believe I started this in quarantine, and we're still in quarantine, but it's the 50th episode now. And the second reason is I have the one and only Valentina Vee on the show. So
I'm
welcome.
doing
How are you
good. I
doing?
feel like quarantine started 3 months ago, but it's been a year.
I think everyone feels that way.
It's wild because I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't every time I talk about I did this last year, I did that last year, and now I have to be like, oh, that was 2 years ago. I did that 2 years ago.
I
Time
feel the same
flies.
way. I reference things in 2019, and I'm like, oh yeah, that was like a couple months ago, and I'm like, it wasn't.
Nope.
So what's that been like for you? I've seen you post about it a couple times. Like you actually just got on a set recently, and I saw that you were super pumped about that.
Anytime I get on a set, I'm super pumped, but I'm also not really taking big productions right now. So I'm
Hmm.
only taking sets that are like under 10 people,
That makes
probably
sense.
under five, trying to keep it under five, but it's hard because with the productions, like sometimes I DP direct, but then it's like you need a production designer and you need talent and you need a producer and you need makeup artists, hairstylists, and it compounds. Like right now, I'm right in front of me is this budget for the shoot that I'm doing this month. It has 11 people, and I'm already like, the COVID tests alone are going to cost me 2 grand just to COVID test 11 people. So,
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
I don't know. Like I live in Atlanta. What are COVID tests like? And you live in LA, don't you?
So the free COVID tests that the city gives out are tend to give false negatives. So
Mm.
they're fine. Like I feel like they're fine for me for my everyday because I take them once a week, sometimes twice a week, just for my own sanity. And they're okay for like productions that I'm a part of, like if I'm hired as a DP on a production, and if those people are fine with that COVID test, then I'll take it. But for my own production, like for something that I'm producing myself, I am going for the PCR test, the paid one, the up the nose one that costs around $160 for like a rapid test. Because it's not just you getting tested. It's also you have to get tested and then you have to quarantine until the shoot, right? Because like if you go to the
Well, that
grocery
makes
store
sense.
after you get a test, then your entire test is null and void. So the closer you can
Mm.
get, like the better tests that you can get, the smaller that turnaround time is to get your result, the less you have to quarantine. So it's been wild because I'm like, yeah, if I'm producing something, I want everyone who's working on my set to be tested with the highest quality test available. Plus, they also have to be masked and shielded. Plus, there has to be a COVID officer on set. So, just the COVID budget, plus, I have to get insurance. The COVID budget plus insurance plus everything is about 4 grand just for that.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
That's just that's insane that we live in this time where you have to spend that much on something you wouldn't have thought you would have to spend like a year and a half ago.
I know. I know. And it's insane because that then you have to save on in other places. You have to skip out on things. And of course I don't want to do
Mm.
that. So then you have to get more money. And how are you like it's wild. It's wild.
That is wild. So, Valentina, we have two things in common that I know of at least. I don't know you super well yet, but
We're
one,
we're
we're
both named
filmmakers.
Trevor. Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, your name's Trevor too? I knew
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Valentina Trevor Vee. Yeah.
Oh, one, we're filmmakers, and two, both of our reels start with former professional
No
wrestlers.
way.
Yeah, mine starts out with Diamond Dallas Page, and yours starts off with the one and only The
That's
Rock.
true.
And I know you've probably been asked this a million times just because that's actually how I discovered you. My roommate Chase sent me your reel and he was like, dude, this rules. And I
Oh,
watched it and I was like, this kicks ass. That's awesome. So Like, how did you get in contact with him? I'm guessing it had something to do with Hobbs and Shaw since it's Jason Statham and
Yeah,
The Rock.
my good friend John Brandon Cruz, who you should follow too, because he's an amazing cinematographer and director. He is actually The Rock's guy, like The Rock.
I actually do follow him.
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
he's incredible.
Cruz is incredible. He's a good friend of mine. He needed some help for the Hobbs and Shaw press tour in China. So he asked me to come along and shoot that. And I happened to get that clip. We were at the top of a skyscraper in Guangzhou, and Cruz was holding the light. And right after the photographers were done taking all their photos, I only had about like 12 seconds to get the shot that I wanted. And DJ and Statham were there, and I was what you saw was the shot that went in my reel at the very top of it and the thing is I was on a stabilizer, right? So you have to like
Mhm,
press record on the camera before you pick the stabilizer up. It's a two-hander. So it's not
mhm,
like I could press record on it. So it was already rolling when I was giving them directions about what I would do. I'm going to go from
mhm,
the left to the right. You just follow the camera with your eyes and everything should be fine. So that whole interaction between them I captured on camera because it was luckily already rolling. And then a few years later, when it was time to finally make my reel, um, I made the whole reel. I put that clip in, and then I sent it to DJ's company, to his producers, and I was like, please let me put this in my reel. Like, I will never ask you for anything. I was like, please. And they gave me permission, and I was just elated. So,
wow, big hoop to jump through, or were they like, yeah, sure,
um, it wasn't a big hoop to jump through. They were lovely. So,
that's awesome.
yeah.
You should do a montage of all those moments before, whenever you hit record and you're picking up the stabilizer.
That would be hilarious. Yeah. It
So,
would just mostly be a bunch of like walls, like
mhm,
empty white wall right before I turn to what the set looks like.
awesome. So, what are some things that you've been working on recently? I know you said COVID's been a huge obstacle for you, but
Oh boy.
so sounds like you've done some other shoots too.
Let's see, what am I working on? I'm working on like nine different things, but it's also what can I say without breaking any NDAs? I guess I can say I shot this series in 2019 called Moments in Time with Eli Cardi. It's a travel photography show. We did 2 seasons of it, and it's all out on YouTube, so you can watch it. But right now, we're working on selling it to a network or a client or something, and we're working on hopefully kickstarting season 3, not kickstarting like on Kickstarter, I mean with a network. So that's a new process to me pitching. I'm also in the process of pitching another TV show that I can't talk about. So that's really exciting. That's moving along. I am in the middle of a music video, a short film, three brand campaigns, none of which I can talk about. And
Oh,
uh,
come on. I'm just kidding.
yeah, that's the thing in the industry is that when you're like actually working in it, there are so many NDAs and you can't
Mhm,
really say anything until like years later. Like I shot DJ's wedding, but I couldn't even talk about it until a year after when he posted the video on his anniversary. So,
mhm. Yeah, I know that feeling. I'm not allowed to talk about this TV show, but I shoot for a TV show every couple weeks, and I travel to Florida, and um, the friends that I've told about it, it's like, dude, I bet your reel is stacked, and I'm like, no, I'm not allowed to use any of this footage, but it would be the
yeah.
the best reel I could have ever put
Yeah,
together.
it's such a bummer. It's such a bummer. So,
Mhm.
but that's the industry and that's what we chose and we love it, right?
Oh, I love what I do.
Yeah.
How did you get started in filmmaking?
Oh, I've been interested in filmmaking since I was little. So I don't really know if there was like a jumping off point. I've just always been making videos since forever.
Do you remember a point where you were like, this is what I want to do?
Not really. I do remember there was a point where I felt very fulfilled in like the path that I was going to take in filmmaking because before I was kind of taking whatever came my way, but I always had this goal. I want somebody to pay me to get on a plane to shoot something. Like I always wanted to travel for work. And I had never traveled until that one first job that put me on a plane, sent me to Hawaii. I did this
Hawaii,
shoot. Yeah, I
nice.
did the shoot on top of a volcano overnight,
What?
um, literally on top of an active volcano for 2 overnights back to back. And I remember it's like a grueling shoot, super like if you've never been on top of a volcano, it's sulfur. So it just smells like 1,000 farts all at once for hours, right? Like 12 hours of nonstop farts. And even though it was that, and it's also like hotter than the surface of the sun. So even though it was like that, I remember this like distinct moment when I was flying back to LA, looking out the window of the plane and seeing the Hawaiian Islands and just being like, oh, I want to do this forever. Like, this is it. I want to do this. I want to travel and make stuff. That's it. So that's why COVID's been so hard for me because that's all I want to do. And I haven't been able to do it.
That sucks. And what a moment to realize that.
Yeah. Yeah. I wasn't ready for that to hit me right there and then and
Mhm.
there.
I remember like my first video camera, it was like this old Panasonic and it took those like tiny
Mhm.
DVDs
The
and I would
mini
just make
DV.
these
Oh,
stupid
the
sketches
mini DV tapes
or
or
DVD
the
tapes
DVD
or not
tapes?
tapes, like these little DVDs.
I've never seen that one.
Looked like you remember GameCube games?
I've never played a
Okay,
game.
it's fine. They have these like tiny discs. I'm trying
I'm gonna
to
look this
edit, see
up.
if I can. I can't remember what they were called, but so that's how I did that,
Oh
and I didn't know how
wow.
to edit. You see it?
Yeah, I see it. It looks like a camera with a Walkman attached to it.
It does. That's the
Yeah.
one.
Mm-hmm.
What was your
Wow.
first camera?
My first camera was a Sony like camcorder that my dad had, and it took mini DV tapes. Yeah. This was in like
That's awesome.
2000. Yeah, the year 2000.
Do you remember a couple of the first things that you like made?
Just like
What were they like?
videos of well, I was in dance a lot. I was doing a lot of dance recitals
Mhm.
at that time, so it was a lot of like after I do my recital, I go into the audience and I film like my friends doing their routines kind of thing. And I
Mhm.
was like 8 years old or 9 years old, just like trying to keep it steady because you're far away from the stage, so you have to like zoom on the camera pretty far, and then it's very shaky, and you're also 8 years old, and you're just kind of like,
That's funny.
yeah. How about you? What
Um,
were some of the first things you shot?
um, I'm not gonna show it, but my very first film, it was this awful Star Wars parody that I did with my friends, and it's called Chicken Wars, and it was just a bunch of really bad chicken puns. And middle school Trevor just thought that was the funniest thing in the world.
Yeah,
And so that was my first experience with film and like working with a set and actors.
it's wild that a lot of the things that we revere eventually become things that we work in or the industries that we work in or the people that we meet. Like I
Mhm.
know Donald Glover was a huge Star Wars fan like his whole life and now he's Lando Car
Calrissian, yeah.
Calrissian. Thank you. I admit I did not watch that movie, but you know the song.
It was okay.
I'm sorry. I'm
I don't
sorry.
think anyone will bash you for not seeing that movie.
Okay. Okay, good.
My friend Pixel Bullet said, "I love her shirt," and I love your shirt too. It's
Thanks.
amazing.
It's like the Disney villains, yeah.
That's cool. Oh, that's dope. Where'd you get that?
Um, I think I got this at where did I get this? Unique Vintage, I think.
Hmm.
Let me see. I think so. I that's the only place I shop nowadays, but
That's cool. So you mentioned that you did dance, and there's a video that you posted recently. It was like a TikTok video. You had your aperture light bulb swinging, and you did this dance, and then you spin, and your like cat goes through, and then it just like it's like the perfect loop. And you showed everyone how to make it, and I was like, so simple, but it was amazing. It was a cool
Yeah,
effect.
I don't know what I was thinking, honestly. I just had some time. And I've been getting back into dance after not dancing since middle school.
Mhm.
So I have been taking classes on T Millie TV, which is my friend Tim Milgram's dance app that he made. And they have these classes there, and I've been taking them. And I just thought, oh, it could be super cool. At the same exact moment, I was testing the Aperture B7Cs. This is before they were released. Aperture sends me stuff to test before it's released, so I
Lucky.
could give my feedback and stuff. So I had these bulbs, and I was like, I'm gonna hang them from the ceiling. And luckily, my roommate's cat just happened to like walk past at the perfect time for me to make it into a magic trick. So
That's amazing. Yeah, you guys should go watch it. It's a really cool how-to video. It's just like a simple masking trick, and it's a great example of taking a mistake and making it cool.
yeah,
I love that. So you mentioned that so you work with Aperture, and sometimes I throw that second in there for some reason. So tell me how you got involved with that. And I've actually watched your how-to videos, and they've actually been very helpful because at my company we shoot a lot of interviews, so it's nice to expound my knowledge on that.
I've been friends with the president of Aperture, Ted, forever. So I was actually one of the very first people to ever use any of their lights back in 2013, before like anyone knew about them. And then in 2016, when the company grew to not just Ted, but to a second person, I was that person. I was the second employee of
Oh,
Aperture.
wow. Sorry. So how did you I think it's interesting that they're more than a lighting company. Like you guys actually want to help filmmakers and everything. So you make these videos and you teach people.
Yeah, that was always the goal. When I was working at Aperture full time, I was the creative content director. So I was producing and shooting and editing these tutorials. And then I left the company to pursue my freelance career. And then Ted asked me to come back as the host of the show. So I think it's super important to like just be a positive voice in the space. There's so
Mm,
many professional filmmakers, cinematographers, gaffers. It is such an insulated club. It literally is a club. Like the ASC is literally a club. It's not a union, right? And they kind of hoard their knowledge and don't really like to share it. And I'm like, but why not though? Right?
mm,
It's gonna
right.
help other people. The industry is not, it's only growing. Like there's there's local industries in every town that could use lighting knowledge, that could use aperture lights. There's local like everything has videos now. The elevators, like when I went to NAB a few years back, I can't say last year because there was no last year. So 2 years ago when I went to NAB, I was in like a Las Vegas hotel, and even the elevators had videos on them, like videos that were specifically made to play inside the elevator, and somebody had to make those videos. Somebody had to shoot those videos. Somebody had to light those videos. And a person who is making videos for the elevator inside a hotel is probably not privy to the knowledge that a professional cinematographer would have. Because they probably, if they were a professional cinematographer, they would probably be, like shooting movies or whatever. So how do they learn, right? How do they learn? How do they make their videos better? Well, here I am to help.
Like I think I've met people that when I ask for advice, they'll say like, no, I don't want to, give my knowledge away. And I'm like, Roger Deakins has a whole website dedicated to showing you how he lights things. And he's one of the greatest DPs of all time.
Yeah, I think after you know the basics of lighting, it's not the lighting knowledge that people need to become Roger Deakins, right? Roger Deakins is
Hmm.
Roger Deakins because of his eye and because of his connections. So even if you learn everything that Roger Deakins knows, you're still not going to be Roger Deakins. So that's why I'm not afraid, because I'm like, if you know everything I know, you're still not going to be me. So I'm still going to be getting the jobs that I'm getting because I'm me, and people don't hire me because of like the gear I own. They hire me because of my brain and what I can bring to the table. It's not knowing the things, it's knowing how to employ the things and when
Hmm.
to employ the things and why to employ the things. I'll give you a quick example. The other month, I was shooting a product commercial for, it's a product that doesn't move. It's hard drive, right? It doesn't move. Usually, when you shoot product commercials for things that move or for things that people can use, like say you're shooting a product commercial for a lollipop, right? Obviously, someone is, eating that lollipop. Or if you're shooting a product commercial for a drink, so obviously that drink is being poured, right? You want to use slow motion, you want to overcrank. But if it's an immobile object that is just spinning on a lazy Susan, so you give it at least some motion, right? And you're using a slider or something to give the camera motion, you're using like a motorized lazy Susan to give the object motion. You don't need to shoot it in slow motion, right? You can just make the lazy Susan slower and make your camera move slower because it's an immobile object. And not having slow motion means that you can not have to crank up your shutter speed, means that your lights don't have to be as powerful. Therefore, your rentals can be lower. But you need to have that knowledge in order to be able to say with confidence, hey, we don't need to shoot slow motion for this. We can save on the budget for the lights. We could put the budget into, something else. Um, that comes with a lot of experience and practice and like know-how. And like, that's not teachable. I can teach you
Yeah,
like the
absolutely.
skills, but the implementation is entirely different.
Was there ever a thing that you did forever in filmmaking, and then one day someone was like, "Hey, you should try this," and it just like blew your mind the way you that particular
I feel
thing?
like I that happens all the time. The last thing that I sort of started doing is I watched The Farewell, which is a movie by Lulu Wang, and I listened to an interview that she did with my friend David Chen on the Culturally Relevant podcast. And something that he brought up with Lulu is that, hey, you have a lot of oneers in your movie. It's a master shot, a wide master shot where most of the action happens. Characters walk in, walk out. Maybe there's some sort of rack focus or focus pull, but it's not really a lot of coverage. And Lulu said, yeah, we had a very tight turnaround for this, so we couldn't really afford to spend time shooting coverage. So I had to figure out how to shoot this movie in oneers. And something that I realized after watching that and listening to the interview was that, oh, snap, it takes so much more effort and so much more forethought to not rely on coverage to get
Hmm.
your shot in the wide. It also takes so much more know-how to light a wide, because when you're lighting tights, you could put a stand close to someone. Like I have a stand right here, right above my head. There's a stand with a light on it, right? I can't have that in a oneer. So it's a lot more difficult to light a master wide shot than anything. And it also is just a lot more masterful. So I've been trying to not rely on coverage. I've been trying to open up my shots, make them wider. I think that also makes them look more cinematic. And that's what I've been trying to do. But like I said, pandemic. So
Can't
can't really
really
do
try
too
that.
much, but I've been meaning to try it anyway.
Right. What are some things that you think filmmakers think that they need that they don't, if that makes sense?
Oh yeah.
I mean, obviously there's a laundry list, but give me
I
your top
I feel
answer,
the
I would say.
first thing is they feel like they need a fancy camera. Uh there's so many times when a producer will be like, "Oh, so you want to rent a Red or like you want to rent an Alexa?" And then they don't spend any money on production design.
Mm.
And I would much rather shoot on my Sony A7S III and take that money for that camera rental and put it into production design because that's going to make the difference. Uh, Shooting white walls is not fun, right? It just makes everything look cheap. Shooting without any foreground elements gives no depth to the scene. So I'd much rather spend that. And it's really hard to make producers understand that. And it's really hard to make clients understand that the value does not necessarily come in the cinematography.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that's my go-to response is when people ask me like, what do I need? Do I need to get a Sony A7S III? And they're like beginner
Mm,
filmmakers. I'm like, you don't need even that camera. It's a great camera. I use it at work a lot, but you can just get a point and shoot or a GoPro, and
100%.
there's so many options. Like for example, I told you that we were talking about our lighting. We're both talking our setups, and I literally, not a lot of people know this, I shoot with my MacBook webcam. I just spent way more time lighting my background than worrying about what camera I was going to
Yeah,
shoot on.
the lighting is the main thing that I think makes a good shot and makes cinematography happen and production design. So obviously you have a really nice production design there. You everything's clean, everything's organized. You have like no loose wires, no like random black stains or anything. It's important.
I think there's some right here. Well, I can't. I gotta mirror myself.
Oh, see, we got
Right
some loose
here.
wires. You're canceled.
Loose wires. I can't help
You're
that though.
canceled. Sorry.
We talked about this before, but like, well, what was your strategy with lighting your background that you have right here? I feel so bad for the audio listeners right now.
Uh, right. Well, my strategy actually at the beginning of the pandemic, my strategy was how do I make money, right? I make money shooting. I don't make money any other way. So I very quickly rearranged my entire room and created this sort of clean live streaming setup out of a corner of my room. So my first strategy was how do I not disturb my daily routine and still leave most of my room untouched? And that meant I have to shoot into a corner. So now that I'm shooting into the corner, how do I put things in that corner so that it doesn't look like just white walls? So I arranged my furniture in a certain way. I hung a mirror so that the mirror would reflect the other side of the room and give more depth.
Ah.
Um, yeah, so you can see how, without the mirror, it would just be a white wall, but with the mirror,
Mhm.
you can see reflections. I I put these lights everywhere that are color changing. So depending on the type of shirt I'm wearing, or maybe if it's like a branded thing, like sometimes I stream for Adobe Premiere and they have like more of a purple vibe. I can change it to purple, at a snap. So that was kind of my strategy and trying to just make it clean and clutter free, which is hard sometimes.
Let's talk about the your Adobe live streams. I've not watched those, but they look super interesting. Like it seems you have a good variety of topics to cover. So what do you do on that?
They've changed this year a little bit. Last year, it was a weekly show where I would have a 1 hour live stream. The first 15 minutes, I would spend talking with a guest about a topic related to my tutorial. So, for example, if the tutorial was on motion graphics, my guest would be Corridor Digital, and I'd talk to them, and then I'd do a little motion graphics tutorial on After Effects. This year, I'm part of the Adobe Live lineup. So it's literally just like a TV channel that goes on all day. And it's at behance.net/live. And I'm in the 7:30 a.m. slot every other
Oh
Tuesday,
no.
which hurts me a little bit just in my soul because I have to get up early and put makeup on and like be ready to go. But the good part of it is that I have the rest of the day and they usually do weekly streams or no they usually do 2 days uh, a week so that they'll usually do a Tuesday Wednesday or like a Wednesday Thursday schedule for people, but I asked to have a little bit of a longer stream, 90 minutes, but just on one day of the week and only every other week because hopefully I'm maybe wishful thinking, but I'm hoping that the pandemic lets up and I can just start, going ham on all my shoots again. And I don't want to have, 2 days of the week just completely blocked by a 1 hour live stream. Because that's the thing, if it's a 1 hour live stream, but you have to do a 12-hour shoot that day, you can't exactly do the 12-hour shoot. So the whole day is basically ruined for you. You can't shoot that day.
Man, what does your schedule mostly look like? Because whenever I asked you what you were up to, you're doing more things than I did in an entire year. It sounds like in just a couple months.
My schedule is insane every single day. Yeah, every day. It's absolute wackadoodle insane. I plan every 15 minutes of my schedule. So it's a lot of like
Well, thank you for taking the time to be on here.
you're welcome. It's literally like I just got off a live stream 10 minutes before, and immediately after I'm done with you, I have to do my workouts. And then immediately after, I have to go to a location scout. And then immediately after that, I have to do a tech check for something else. And then tomorrow morning, I have at 6 a.m., I have to do a equipment return. So it's literally like from 6 a.m. to midnight, every 15 minutes of my day is planned.
Wow. I don't think I've ever done that in my life. I hope to get to that point. I'd love to be busy with filmmaking and just, growing my brand and myself and challenging myself. So was that a gradual change, or did it come more with, your freelance work?
I'd say it's because of the pandemic, because people
Mm,
sort of expect you to be at your email or at your computer always. And so you just get bombarded with emails, with texts. Um, right now I have 10 projects at the same time that I'm doing. So even during like our chat here, I've gotten like 12 text messages from different clients just being like, "Where's that thing?" I'm like, calm down. Like, calm down. Like, I'm checking over a budget here. I literally have to get back to a client about something else here. So it's been gradual, but sometimes I say no to everything except for one project. Like in 2019, when I did the travel show, obviously I'm traveling for months at a time, and every single day I'm getting up early, I'm shooting all day. And then at the end of the day, I have to dump all the cards, back up all the cards, go to sleep, catch my 8 hours of sleep. Sometimes it's four, and then get up early again and shoot the whole day for like 7 days a week for weeks at a time or months at a time. And so obviously when that happens, I'm only focused on the one client that I'm with, and I say no to everything else. But because of the pandemic and me not being able to go anywhere and the fact that I still have to make money somehow, it's been intense.
yeah, I bet. What's the most tedious part for you in filmmaking? Like if you could just be like, cut it, done it, don't want it, what would it be?
I'm very adamant about um, accessibility. And so everything I make has subtitles. Even my reel had subtitles. And
Mm,
that is unfortunately something that I do that I don't want to do. And I beg clients to have somebody else do subtitles. I'm like, I'm begging you because I'll quote them my editing rate, which is quite high, uh, to like dissuade them from having me do the subtitles. I'm like, yeah, I could do the subtitles, but it's going to cost you money because it's my time. Like, send it to, Fiverr or something. Somebody in India will do it. Like, literally have anyone else do it but me. I hate it. It takes so much time for me to like transcribe and then put it all on. And some clients will just be like, "Nah, we'll just have you do it. You do the whole thing. It's fine. Like, we'll pay you for your time." I'm like, "Oh God." So then I'm typing out subtitles. I hate that.
See, you don't have to give me an exact dollar amount, but what advice would you give for, because I struggle with this too with my freelance work, is knowing my worth and like knowing how much I should charge. Because I think I'm pretty good at this point in my career, but I feel like I'm not like someone like your level, and I'm definitely not a beginner. So I always struggle with like those certain clients, and they're like, "What's your rate?" or whatever. I don't really have one.
Yeah, I struggle with this too, to be honest. I don't have a rate sheet or anything like that, and I
Mm,
quote on a project by project basis. Um, it's hard, like for big name clients, they usually pay me my rate and they pay me really well, and that's kind of what I subsist on. And then for some for everything else, I'm mostly working with friends and they pay me what they can, but I get paid in other things like I'm working with a really cool artist who I've always wanted to work with, or I'm trying out a new technique on like a friend's project um, before I can bring it to a client, like an actual client. So yeah, it's hard. I don't know. I'm really bad at finances. I'm really bad at like I'm the worst. I'm so bad at it. I can't believe
that's why we're filmmakers and not
I
accountants.
honestly can't believe anyone trusts me with money. I'm,
That's hilarious. Um, so let's move on to I asked Valentina if she would do this before. So I'm wanting to spruce up my studio right now, and you are a lighting expert in my opinion. And I mean, you just what any tips or any advice on how to spruce up the studio that I
I
have?
think you're doing a really good job, honestly. And you said
Thanks.
that you have some MCs that you usually place in the background as well.
Yeah, that's a recent addition. Yeah, I usually put them on the shelf here.
Yeah, it's awesome. No, I think you're doing a really good job. What I like about your setup is kind of like mine. You have your key light is not directly in front of you, it's off to the side a little bit. So it's giving you some nice definition,
That's
some
like
nice shadow, which is really lovely. And you have a lot of color in the background. And it's not much clutter either. So I think you're doing a really fine job, and it's not too many white walls. So I don't know if I can give too much. Probably clean up your cables is one thing.
yeah,
And yeah, I don't know
in this spot
about
down here.
what.
Yeah, there's this one spot with the
Yeah, that
cables that I
one
pointed
spot.
out.
It's also kind of a
Yeah.
hot spot. I try to have my hot spots if like I have one by my mirror over here, but
Mhm.
I try to have it like purposeful. But I don't know if your hotspot makes sense because it's on the ground. So what I would probably do is maybe put it like underneath your shelf. You know what I'm saying? To kind of light from below.
Ah,
Kind of like you did with your upper shelf.
okay. Yeah, that's a good idea actually. What's some of your biggest pet peeves with backgrounds in interviews?
I feel like my pet peeves don't really come with backgrounds, they come with the sound, honestly.
Hmm.
That's the most important thing in interviews. And I see celebrities doing these press tours on like Good Morning America or whatever. We're a year into the pandemic. You can't buy a Yeti mic. Like it's $100. Like you're still using the default like MacBook mic. Like really? Really? Also, if it's just messy, you're purporting to be a professional, but your background is just like messy. My friend Karen Cavett, she makes videos for HGTV, and she just released like a few days ago, or maybe it was yesterday, she just released a fun hack for that, how to build your own foldable background for Zoom calls. You could just put it directly behind you and then it's like a clean
Oh,
slate.
cool.
So yeah, check that out on the HGTV Facebook page.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the first things I was really big on whenever I started this show was, you know, a cam link. I have like I'm constantly using my Sony camera, so I can't use it for a
Hmm.
webcam, and it's just obnoxious to set up every single time. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna have really good audio. So I got this Shure SM7B, and I made sure that I have 5 roommates. I make sure to tell them I'm doing a show because don't want any weird background noise. So sound is way more important than visuals. How can you whenever you're looking for a location, do you make sure that it's like a nice quiet location? Because I'm sure you like film in warehouses and all sorts of places because you don't want to film next to a highway or something.
It depends on what we're doing. Like if
Right.
it's a music video, it doesn't matter. Or if it's
Mm.
just like an aesthetic kind of campaign, it does not matter. But that's actually something that came up in a recent video that we did for 4 Minute Film School because for the Aperture channel, because we've kind of moved to a format where I explain the lighting as I'm on set, so I walk through it while I'm there. Whereas before, we were shooting everything and then I come in on like day two to the studio, to the Aperture studio, and then I record a talking head and I explain the lighting. And then we cut back and forth between the previous day on site and then my regular talking head. And so recently we started doing where I just walk through the set and I explain it. And we did have one situation where there was some sort of like sewage crew or construction crew. They were doing something with the sewage across the street from the location that we were shooting in, and they were doing it all day. So we just had to kind of scrap the talking portion of everything and do
Oh
it the next
man.
day, just like we used to do. So it was a little bit of a bummer, but yeah, whenever there's sound involved, I definitely want to make sure that it's first of all that there's no like crazy sound, but also that it's not too echoey. It's not like a
Hmm.
giant cinder room.
Hmm. Yeah, that's definitely not good for sound. What I also like about you, Valentina, is I love this resurgence of people that their profession. I feel like 10 years ago, if someone said they were a filmmaker, you wouldn't think they would be in front of a camera talking about how to, do these things. And, you consider yourself a cinematographer, but you're also really good in front of the camera. Did you realize that at some point? And you were like, I can be in front of the camera and explain these things to people.
I was kind of forced into it, honestly. And I don't here's the thing, Trevor. I don't love it. Like, if I could have my way, I would never be in front of a camera ever, ever, ever. But because of the pandemic, two things happened. Number one, I've had to switch my entire strategy of how I make money to education. And for education, you need to be in front of a camera.
Mhm.
And number two, I'm not a very social person. So I'm very antisocial. I'm very introverted. So I just have not had human contact. Like I have not talked to people. So this is like you and me, like this is the only way I can communicate with people now. So I've had to be in front of the camera. So it's out of necessity, but I fully understand why most cinematographers and most filmmakers don't get in front of the camera, and I'm on their team. I'm team them, to be honest.
Yeah, I just think it's so cool. Like like I went from watching, silly sketch videos and vloggers and stuff like that who are kind of obnoxious now that looking back, but now my most of my YouTube history is like how-to videos and filmmakers explaining how cameras work or how to do a lighting setup.
There's, I don't, I struggle with the legitimacy of showing my face
Hmm.
versus not, to be honest, because so many of my favorite filmmakers, I think about like Joseph Kahn, Jeannie Finley, Nora Ephron, um, Amy Sherman Palladino. Like Amy Sherman Palladino is one of my favorite filmmakers of all time. The Wachowskis, they don't even have social media. They don't even like show their faces. Um, and whether that is because they're too prestigious for it, I don't know, or whether that's because
Mm.
maybe they're camera shy or maybe they just don't need, I mean, they don't need social media. Um, they get plenty of work. I mean, I don't need social media either. So, uh, it's always like a balance because I've used social media forever. I've just always been on private. Like all of my accounts have been private forever. And that's because I just enjoy it. Like I like posting things that my friends look at. I like commenting on other people's posts. I'm such a fervent advocate for like finding friendship through social media, but because it's become this like dick measuring contest, And people see you, like if you have a large number of followers, people think that you're legit or you're the shit when you're probably not. You just have a lot of followers. And I don't want people to think of me like that. You know what I mean? Like recently, I've been getting hit up a lot about like, do you want an ambassador for us? Or like, here's a sponsorship deal, or like, make a video for our product and all this stuff. I'm like, do you know that I don't even make videos? Like, do you know I don't even have a YouTube channel? Like, people just don't care. They see that you have followers and they just automatically think that you're an influencer and you put yourself in front of a camera for a living. And like, that's not what I do for, like, I've never made money through posting anything on any of my social medias. I've never taken a cent.
I never thought I could feel good about that. I'm like, I'm here to have fun and just show you guys what I'm working on.
That's me. That's me too. But that's not what a lot of people think. A lot of people are like,
Hmm.
oh, she's, and that maybe this is just all in my head, by the way, but a lot of like, because I do it too. Like, I see people who have big followings and I'm like, oh, they're an influencer. Like, you know, I have to dig really deep to find out if they're legit or not. Like, a lot of influencers, they may be really good teachers, or like maybe they review cameras for a living and they're really great at that. And then you go to their website to look at their work and it's just like, oh, street photography, cool. I love street photography, but like, have you done it for a client? Do you make money doing it? Like, are you a professional street photographer? What are you?
Mm. I struggle with legitimizing influencers that is, just don't have any notable talents other than they're good at posting.
Mm-hmm.
And like people like you, I can respect because it's like, I mean, you say you're not an influencer, but it's like this girl's she's a filmmaker. She has valuable things to post. But then there's these like model Instagram influencers. I'm like, okay, you're very attractive. Am I getting in some treacherous waters right now?
No, I agree with you. I'm nodding in agreement.
Yeah, but that's one reason I can't. Do you think filmmakers need social media to thrive in their
No,
career? No.
absolutely not. No.
Mm.
And I don't think that you're a filmmaker if you need social media to thrive in your career. Yeah, I'll go even that far. Like, if that's the
That's a hot
thing,
take.
if yeah, if that's the thing, if you make most of your money from social media and not from actual filmmaking,
Oof. That's so true. Like I um there's some filmmakers, I'm not going to call it any names obviously, that I went to college with, and all I see them do is just post on social media. Do you actually make from this, or what do you do anything on the side? And it's just no, they just post these things and they go nowhere.
it's like Instagram models, right? Like, there are
Hmm.
people who make money by posting with products on Instagram. And then there's actual models who are going to castings, who are walking in runway shows, who are getting booked for print campaigns. There's also the same thing in the filmmaking community. And listen, I'm not a filmmaking gatekeeper. I think every person should decide what to call themselves. But it bothers me when I get hit up. Like, I've been getting so many emails of people who are being like, do you want to grow your following? Like put yourself into this like loop campaign and we'll like send you followers. And like, it bothers me when people call themselves filmmakers, but they don't actually make anything like other than what they're posting on their own social media, right? Like,
Hmm.
your Instagram post is not a film. And
Hmm.
I'm not saying that I'm making films either, because I'm making TV shows, right? So maybe I'm a TV show maker or whatever you call it. But like, it's wild that I don't know. Maybe just I'm a hateful bitch, like, honestly. Like,
No, I
I
don't
don't want
think
to
you are. I
hate on
think you're just being
anyone.
real.
I don't want to hate on anyone because there's definitely a place for those people, and I am friends with some of them and they're great. Like, they're like, I have not met any single person who's like that, who's not a wonderful human being. So I don't want to like hate on people. But I also tend to be considered to be one of them. And I'm like, well, that's not me.
Mhm. I get that. Another thing I love to talk about this on my show is just kindness in general and treating people well. And I feel like that's so important in the creative community because, like, if I don't enjoy working with someone, I'm not going to invite them to be on a set. And how important is that, deciding who to collaborate with?
Yeah, this is true. This is very true. I had a little bit of karma with that the other year. The other year? Oh my God, it's been so long.
Which year?
I can't even remember it. There was this guy who was a TA for my directing class in college, and he took like crazy advantage of me by having me edit his film trailer and for like 2 weeks. And it was during finals. So I had to do finals and I had to edit his film trailer. He was like very obnoxious about it. Like, I think I did like 38 revisions of it and he didn't pay me. And I created custom graphics for it that he didn't pay me for. And then he didn't even use my cut for the actual trailer. He recut it himself, but used my graphics. But again, didn't credit me or pay me. And so that is the type of person that I'm like, oh, I see. I'm at the bottom of the ladder right now, right? I'm a student. You're up here, you're making films. But when I climb that ladder, I'm not going to be working with you. And then a few years ago, a friend of mine who eventually went on to become an agent hit me up and is like, hey, this guy, we're considering representing him for our agency. I saw that you've worked with him because I'm like following, like we went to school together, right? So, you know, we're in the same circles. She's like, I saw that you went to school together. Like, what do you think of him? And I'm like, karma's a bitch. Like, he
Got what
got
he
what he deserves. So
deserved.
I'm like, yeah, you be nice to people and you get what you deserve. And I try to be really nice to people, but there are bad people. There are bad
Mm.
people in this industry. It's full of them. There's people who are entitled. There's people who are um, just mean and nasty. And I have no patience or tolerance for that.
Me neither. And I don't, and especially in this day and age, if you are not kind and you're not treating people well, like you are going to be found out. Like people take notice of that and people will tell other people. Like it's very easy to find that stuff out.
Yeah. And unfortunately, sometimes you mess up, right? We're all
Mhm.
human. We all mess up. And uh, maybe you say something you didn't mean. Maybe you were in the heat of the moment. Maybe you thought that something was right, but it wasn't. Like there are these times that happen. And the thing that sucks is you could be a good person, you could just have a bad day, or like something might happen. And then if you're only working that one day with someone, and that's how they remember you.
Mm.
So I try to give people grace. And I try to think, okay, like maybe this isn't how they are. Maybe this is like if it's a repeated thing, like if it happens for weeks and weeks and weeks, like it did with that guy I told you about, the one who had me edit his trailer, then I know you're a pile of trash.
Right.
But if it's like a mistake that happens like one time, or if it was just that one day, I get it because it's happened to me, right? And I don't want other people to judge me based on a mistake that I made one time. So I try not to judge other people either.
Right. I remember probably this is still probably one of the biggest mistakes, but I auditioned to act in this student film for a friend in college, and I got the call sheet, and I, for some reason, thought the time was different in my head. And long story short, I didn't wake up, and I halted the production for 2 hours, and that was probably one of the most embarrassing days ever.
It happens though. Yeah.
Yeah, it totally happens.
And
Well,
you
Valentina,
don't, no one's going to be like, well, that guy never wakes up. That guy is in a coma and we're never going to hire him again. Like, no.
I was in college this 6 years ago. Like my life is over, and now here I am in Atlanta, like doing pretty well for myself.
Yeah. Yep. Just so, I mean, if anyone listening to this, just so you know, like, there are so many incompetent, terrible at their job assholes who work in this industry and they're somehow still getting work. So if you're a nice person, if you're a nice, competent person, then you'll be fine.
Absolutely. Well, Valentina, we're nearing the end of the show, and I always let people plug everything in. Like, tell us where we can find you. And I know you have a master class on moment.com right now that you're having. So please plug that in too. Whoa.
Well, yeah, if you want to follow me, you don't have to. But if you do, it's
You shut
valentina.v
up.
on Instagram, Valentina V on Twitter. And yes, I have a moment course. So if you go to shopmoment.com, I made a course, like my own course. I came up with it. I made it. It's all about how to shoot interviews, but not just shoot them. It's about how to plan them, how to prep your guests, what kind of questions to ask, how to ask questions, how to do research, how to take notes, how to shoot, how to do sound, how to edit your interview, pretty much like the entire process, soup to nuts. I'm very proud of it. And I don't know, I hope people like it. I'm not one of those people that's like always trying to hawk stuff. This is the first thing I've ever made or tried to like market. So, yeah.
Well, can you give us a tip or two from your class?
I talk about my four things on what I look for when I look for locations. And
Mhm.
those things are I look for sound, which we already talked about, right? So is the location going to be echoey? Um, is it going to be conducive to good sound? Number two, take a look at the lighting, whether or not it has natural light, because a lot of times if you have natural light, that light can shift throughout the day and it's really not cute. So you want to be able to control your lighting the entire time. Number three is the production design. So hopefully it's not just a white room. You can fill it up in the back, make it nice and neat. And number four, what was number four? It was depth. Make sure that you're shooting with depth and you're not just like immediately in front of a wall.
Super important. Even if you can just put a practical light in the
Yep.
back, if you're in a white room, it adds a little bit of depth.
True, true. Or something
Oh,
in
yeah.
the front.
Oh, that's cool. You should have
See,
kept that the whole
I
interview.
should have just done this.
What is that? Is that Diet Coke?
Yes, it's my vice.
Nice. And last question, is The Rock cool? I have to know.
I'm sorry, you froze there, so I didn't hear the question.
Oh, sorry. I said last question, and I have to know, is The Rock cool?
He's the best.
He's the
He's
best.
literally the best.
What's it like working with him?
Very
Or
chill.
just being around him? Does he have this like a radiant energy like every dude bro thinks he has?
Uh, I don't know if he has that, but the thing is, I've worked with so many celebrities by now
Mhm.
that it doesn't like celebrity does not phase me at all. So he's just a nice guy. But maybe if someone's like a bigger fan of him and meets him, they might think that he radiates a dude bro energy or whatever he said. So
Absolutely. Well, Valentina, thank you so much for coming on. Uh, everybody, this was my 50th episode. Thank you all so much for watching. I will continue to the show. I hope it continues to grow. I'm going to finally convert this to podcast form, so hopefully it can go on Spotify and all that good stuff soon. Follow me on all socials, Portable Trevor on Instagram, Portable Show, Portable Trevor, all sorts of portables. Thank you so much. Thank you, Valentina. Everybody, have a blessed day.
thank you.
Woo!